Good evening again, Baltimore City. Okay, we can do better than that on the evening of this auspicious occasion. Good evening, Baltimore City. That's what I'm talking about. It is such an honor to be back home in Baltimore City, particularly City Hall, a place where I grew my news eye teeth, if you will. Alonzo remembers. I remember my first mayor I officially covered, Mr. Mayor. His name was Kurt Schmoke. Yes, that's right, Susan Taylor. We're in the spirit, aren't we? Yes. It is a blessing to be here to celebrate civil rights and freedom and South Africa. Yes. And this wonderful exhibit that is toward the nation, it just came from the Kennedy Center, and now it's here in the City Hall. And it's so wonderful to understand the connection to ending apartheid and the Mitchell family here in Baltimore. And this wonderful exhibit shows us that the struggle continues, because Lord knows it continues today. Do I need to say more, Mr. DEI Mayor? I digress, but we know that's not the truth. But without further ado, as I speak of our illustrious mayor, I would like to call to the podium the 52nd mayor of this wonderful city of Baltimore, Mayor Brandon Scott.
Whoops. There we go. I got it. Good evening, everyone. Good evening. This is Baltimore. This is Juneteenth, AFRAM week. We're going to be loud and proud all week. Good evening, everyone. Good evening. There we go. And thank you, April, for that wonderful introduction. As you know, I'm Mayor Brandon Scott, and I want to thank you all for joining us on this special occasion on the eve of Juneteenth. We are here to celebrate the opening of the transformative exhibition, Marylanders Cry Freedom, Civil Rights at Home and Abroad, which will be on display right here in City Hall for quite some time. But before I move any further, I want to acknowledge the presence of our City Comptroller, Bill Henry. Mr. Comptroller, thank you for joining us tonight. I saw my forever delegate here, Delegate Talmadge Branch, thank you. We have two wonderful members of the Maryland State Senate here. Senators, wave your hands, gentlemen. Thank y'all for joining us. One from Baltimore County, one from Montgomery County, but they know they got to come to Baltimore to get the best crabs, so they had to come home. Thank you all for being here. I would be remiss if I didn't say thank you, Dr. Chavis, for being here and for all your leadership through all the many years as a young man. Seeing you all on TV helped me really step into what I always say that I like to be every day, an unapologetic, proud black man. So thank you very much. Thank you very much. As we reflect on our country's history, specifically the 400 years of slavery and the decades of Jim Crow segregation, the civil rights movement, and the ongoing mission to extinguish police brutality and realize that liberty and justice for all promised centuries ago, we must acknowledge our state and our city's deep ties to this challenging part of America's past. Baltimore, as a port city, played a significant role in the transatlantic slave trade. In fact, historical records document Baltimore as a major center for the slave trade. Fate would have it, April, that there's been a lot of discussion in recent weeks of rather why black people want to gather at a place where they used to sell us on weekends in Baltimore City. So that tells you that we've come a long way, but we still have a long, long way to go. Then it attracted those who fled slavery and served as an important way station at the beginning of the final leg of the journey out of the South. And every time I think about that time and I think about folks that came and walked these streets of Baltimore, I think about Frederick Douglass and him being on that ship and coming here and doing all the things that he did to go on to help change this world for the better. Therefore, Baltimore was where some of the strictest policies and codes in the country were created, worsening the mistreatment of African Americans and their descendants. But as our country wrestled with this dark history, a chosen few never accepted this as the reality of the future. Because of their perseverance and unwillingness to back down, we are here today. I'm here today. You are here today, able to hold power in these halls that used to serve largely to prevent those who look like us from achieving our excellence. And I know that some of the ghosts that haunt City Hall are so displeased that I am standing at this podium today. We can never forget the history, the good and the bad, that Baltimore has. And we must recognize the fight to preserve our civil rights and advance equity is not a static thing of the past, but consistently every day. It's a daily, lively effort that we must take up each day, especially now as we face another round of threats to our democracy. We say it all the time, but this is the most important election in my 40 years of breathing life. 2024 is the anniversary of so many significant milestones and notable moments in Black and American history. The NAACP, which was founded in Baltimore and remained headquartered here for most of its existence, is celebrating its 115th year. This also marks the 70th anniversary of the landmark case Brown versus the Board of Education, which was argued by Baltimore's own United States Supreme Court Justice Thurgood Marshall. And fate would have it that 7 years ago, from then, we have folks that are trying to take power, and you know they want to walk every single bit of it back. And we've been joined by my congressman, Congressman Kwesi Mfume. I won't embarrass you with any sob stories today, sir. But 2 weeks from today, on July 2nd, we will recognize the 60th anniversary of the Civil Rights Act, which established and codified the prohibition of discrimination on the basis of race, color, religion, sex, or national origin. And I know I don't need to tell this crowd how much that is at risk right now. April mentioned it. I won an election and they called me the DEI mayor. I, of course, turned it around and said duly elected incumbent, and I want to thank them for turning into T-shirts that supported my campaign. Thank you, racists, for being racist. Thank you very much. But it's important to remember the significance of these dates and the evolution of civil rights movement and the freedom struggle for Black people in America, because it is far from over. When you see what's happening, when I talk to my brother and sister mayors, especially from some places in the South, we know that those rights are under attack each and every day. But we must also recognize that in the 20th century, while the United States was grappling with its own internal issues, such as addressing civil rights and racial injustices, the continent of Africa was also contending with the pervasive and oppressive system of apartheid in South Africa. The effects of apartheid were deeply entrenched and manifested in the form of ongoing social inequities, economic disparities, and lasting divisions within the country. In response to the injustice of apartheid, Maryland lawmakers took a significant step by introducing a divestment bill in 1984, which just happens to be the year I was born. This bill aimed to end the state's support for businesses investing in South Africa's apartheid government. The efforts of individuals such as Delegate Pete Rawlins, Delegate Sylvania Woods, and Senator Clarence Mitchell III played a crucial role in championing the cause, reflecting Maryland's opposition to apartheid in South Africa. Today, we gather to commemorate and celebrate the 40th anniversary of Maryland's divestment from the apartheid era in South Africa through the launch of this wonderful exhibit. This exhibit serves as a testament to Maryland's unwavering commitment to justice, equality, and human rights, not just here, but on a global scale. I want to thank our partners, the Embassy of the Republic of South Africa, Sister States of Maryland, National African American Drug Policy Coalition. This remarkable exhibit is the product of collaborative effort between the National African American Drug Policy Coalition, the Apartheid Museum in South Africa, and the Maryland and South Africa Sister State Committee. Your dedication and hard work have brought this extraordinary display to life, and we are honored to house it right here in Baltimore City Hall as a reminder of how far we've come and the motivator for how far we still will go. On behalf of the city of Baltimore, I extend my deep appreciation to all who made it possible. We are immensely grateful for your contributions. We are immensely grateful for all the work that you have done, but we invite you to immerse yourself in this captivating showcase which celebrates this incredible contributions of many Marylanders and individuals and organizations. We hope that you take pleasure and experience this exhibit's powerful impact and significance, especially at this time when this significance couldn't be even more important. Through this display, we aim to illuminate the local influence on global movements, connect past endeavors with present-day challenges, and ignite ongoing activism within our communities. Thank you for all that you have done. Thank you for all that you continue to do, and thank you for all that you will do in the future to continue to see Black freedom and liberation come to life. And as I close, I'm going to ask that we all join in a moment of silence for all of our brothers and sisters that we have lost throughout the struggle. From the first ship through last night or early this morning, and maybe even 5 minutes ago, because we know the struggle happens every single day, every single minute, every single second. So let's honor those who we lost. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And at this moment, I would like for everyone to please stand in respect and recognition of our national anthem. Lift every voice and sing. Yes, it's the Negro national anthem, but it's our national anthem as well. Let us sing with pride and rejoice in this.
Lift every voice and sing till earth and heaven ring. Ring with the harmonies of liberty. Let our rejoicing rise high as the listening skies. Let every sound loud as the rolling sea. Sing a song full of the greatness of God that has taught us. Sing a song full of the hope that the present has brought us. Praising the rising sun of our new day begun. Let us march on till victory is
And please remain standing for one of the most beautiful prayers ever to be heard, the South African national anthem.
Africa, Manupa.
You now may be seated. Didn't I tell you it was one of the most beautiful prayers? The South African national anthem. And I couldn't help but look into the crowd as that wonderful rendition of the national anthem was sung. I looked at Kwesi Mfume, our congressman. I saw you welling up. For many of you who don't know, there are Marylanders who fought for South Africa. I remember seeing pictures of you handcuffed, going to jail for the end of apartheid. And thank you to the Mitchell family for all you did. And Mr. Mayor, I know you are young. You're in the 40-something crew. But I'm going to tell you, I love Baltimore because they are survivors and fighters from this place. And one thing, a couple of years ago on my back porch, you told me so poignantly that this was the place that redlining began in Baltimore City. There is a fight here. That's why we're celebrating today. The fight continues. Marylanders cry for freedom, civil rights at home and abroad. And as you're in your 40s, I'm going to tell my age. I was born in 1967, 9 months before the assassination of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. A few years before the Civil Rights Act was enacted and the voting rights were enacted. And now, as we talk about the fight abroad and at home, we're still fighting today, Dr. Chavis, Dr. Draper. We are voting, and I encourage all of you to vote. I'm not going to say who you should vote for, but I'm encouraging you all to vote. We are voting for a president, state and local leaders, but we are voting at a time. We're voting without the full protections of the Voting Rights Act. The fight continues. In some states, they tell us, if I give grandma a cracker because her diabetes is flaring up, I'm going to jail. The fight continues. 1994, apartheid ended, but they're still trying to catch up in South Africa. Majority Black population. And let's talk about affirmative action. We are now a post-affirmative action era nation. The Supreme Court and what they did in the affirmative action on college admissions has changed the process. And now corporations are trying to take what's meant for education and using it and getting rid of DEI. So the fight continues. I'm not here to preach. You say I am? Okay. And I'm not here to give the occasion, but I guess I did in a little bit. But with the occasion, I would like to bring forth Professor Jean Bailey.
Thank you so much, April, for honoring us with your presence and hosting this event, a very significant event for us who have been working on this project for the last 6 years. So thank you again for joining us. And Mr. Mayor, Congressman, all of the other ambassador, honored guests, welcome, and thank you all for being here. I'm Jean Bailey, and I am the project director for the America's Voices Against Apartheid project, and also president of the Sister States of Maryland and chair of the Maryland South Africa Sister State Committee. And I am especially honored to have the opportunity to bring this exhibition to Maryland because I live here. Maryland is my home state, and I am so honored to be a part of this state, which has had such a significant role in the liberation of Black people around the world. And this is what this exhibition is about. We are here to tell the story. the America's Voices Against Apartheid project is not just about South Africa. It is about the intersection of the civil rights movement. It's how Black South Africans and Black Americans like Congressman Mfumi and Clarence Mitchell Jr. worked together to bring about the liberation of our people. As it turned out, which I never thought would happen, we had the Civil Rights Act signed in 1964, and then now, and 30 years later, we were able to have the civil rights, the anti-apartheid, the democracy in South Africa to be established, and the end of apartheid. So as it comes, in 2024, we have these confluence of anniversaries. So we're really delighted that the timing is such that we're able to be here to celebrate this event with you and throughout the summer. Not only just to have the exhibit, but it's an education project. As we said, the struggle continues. We want to educate our youth and others about how we achieved this significant accomplishment, but then the work that needs to be done. One of the things that had not been mentioned in with the eloquent presentations is that this is the global dimension, and Maryland was not only instrumental in like the anti-apartheid movement, but as you know, just liberation struggles in the global arena throughout. And so, for example, of course, Frederick Douglass, not only did he fight for liberty here, but he went to Ireland to help the Irish fight. And so we want to celebrate the role that Marylanders have played throughout. One of the things our committee, which is the Sister States of Maryland, which is a global committee, and we have representatives from many countries around the world, many of whom were on the slave route. And so we are able to go to those countries and work with our counterparts to study and to interact with our brothers and sisters who share our culture, because they are members of the African diaspora. We're also very fortunate, actually, the whole exhibition was inspired by my colleague, Professor Joseph Harris. Who, as we talk about Juneteenth, well, he was the one that actually started the study of the dispersion of people of African descent through enslavement across the world. He studied those slave routes. So you see the map here in this hall. His work was a seminal work that laid the foundation for the establishment of the study of the routes of enslaved peoples, and then to begin to work to not only address or redress the lingering legacies, but also to continue to study so that we as a people could come together in terms of liberation, continued liberation struggles. So at this time, I would like to, well, first of all, before I introduce Dr. Harris, I want to recognize, which I have been working on this project, as we said, it's really been 5 years or 6 years. But, of course, I wasn't working on it alone, and it would not have occurred, ever have come to fruition, had it not been for such a wonderful group of people with whom we worked. I first want to recognize Phil Brady, the outstanding, well, come on up, Phil, our exhibition designer. Every time I say, yeah, you get the last. So when I mentioned then my Senator Verner Jones, she said, well, you think I could get him to come and design something for me? So hopefully you'll have some benefits from this. But at any case, he specializes in working with historical projects, and he has done such a wonderful job. And without him, we would not have had such a creative representation. So thank you so much.
Just following you, Dr. Bear. Thank you.
But, and I also, there are others in the room that I want to recognize in absentia, Tara Hammonds, our project coordinator, who many nights, and then Kefra Burns, docent, but actually he's the writer, conceptualizer, and does all these great things. So hopefully you'll get a chance to talk with him. And then also, well, many others. And I see the moderator is coming. And so I just want to also, Alicia Adams, did Alicia make it? From the Kennedy Center. We were inspired by her great work. So thank you again, everyone, for coming, and I hope you continue to enjoy the exhibition.
It is definitely important to recognize all those who worked on this important work. Marylanders cry freedom, civil rights at home and abroad. And without further ado, I would like to bring to you Ishmael Isawa, the ambassador of South Africa, followed by Dr. Joseph Harris, followed by Dr. Bobby Henry, the chair of the National Newspaper Publishers Association, and Dr. Ben Chavis, the president and CEO of the National Newspaper Publishers Association. And you have 2 minutes each. Thank you. I am not the bearer of bad tidings.
Thank you. Thank you, program MC. I've got 2 minutes. Thank you. It's indeed festive out here, and I think I'll start on my paper. It's a thesis, but we'll get there. Good evening, a very good evening, and a welcome to everybody. And I'm indeed honored and privileged to be amongst such eminent guests, Senator Mitchell, the Mayor, thank you, Honorable Mayor, and all the distinguished guests. On behalf of the South African Embassy, it's indeed my honor and privilege of my colleagues who have joined us here as well to be part of this opening of a truly one-of-a-kind and extraordinary and significant exhibition being held here at this historic landmark at the Baltimore City Hall. Events of this scale would be impossible without partnerships and sponsorships. For this, I wish to convey the Embassy's profound gratitude to all the respective partners and sincerely appreciate the efforts and patronage of everyone in the organization of this exhibition. A warm congratulations. Thank you. I also wish to convey a special thanks to the sister cities of Maryland, especially to the eminent Professor Jean Bailey, for the continuous partnership, collaboration, and innovative commitment towards the advancement of South Africa-US relations. This exhibition, fittingly entitled Marylanders Cry Freedom, Civil Rights at Home and Abroad, a companion exhibit to the American Voices Against Apartheid, reflects its contents and its point. It has a particular significance and relevance as it explores the past to heal, to reconcile, and to build the future. In this sense, it is particularly relevant to the South Africa of today. For on the 16th of June recently, we commemorated the 48th anniversary of Youth Day. This day honors the anniversary of the 1976 Soweto Youth Uprising and holds immense significance in South Africa's history, serving as a strong reminder of the dedication and resilience of the youth in the face of adversity. It stands as a symbol of the unwavering commitment to justice and inequality. Youth Month comes during a season where South Africa also celebrating its 30 years of freedom and democracy. It is within this context Cyril Ramaphosa was re-elected on the 14th of June as South Africa's president and will lead the 7th democratic administration under a government of national unity in entrenching our constitution and the rule of law with a purpose to build a South Africa for all. This year is also of great significance as the United States celebrates the 60th anniversary of the Civil Rights Act of 1964. Governor Westmore proclaimed 2024 as the Civil Rights in Maryland. Marylanders were and are the forefront of the movement and are told through words and voices of those who lived it. Here, oral histories and photography connect past to present and provide personal perspectives of historic moments. The lived experiences of those activists make up the complex mosaic of the long and continuing fight for civil rights. In Maryland and across the nation, the earlier pioneers in struggle and in solidarity with struggle deserve our eternal recognition and gratitude. The support provided by the people of the United States has a significant place among the foundation of the stories of a vibrant friendship that exists between our two countries. Rooted in friendship and in struggle, it is these magnificent partnerships that produce precious manuscripts of memory. In reflecting the history and memory of this exhibition, a visual testament of encompassing an harmonious blend of art and activism holds proof of the long-term friendly, rich, and robust history between South Africa and the United States. This exhibition exemplifies and celebrates the strength, the breadth, and the depth of the relationship from the support of the anti-apartheid movements, which began with the brave efforts of principled opponents of racism and evolved to become an agreed position by both governments and opposition. Our diverse and interwoven linkages are focused on a sense of a shared destiny, a shared determination to create a just and sustainable future for our people and our planet. Like all relationships, we need to reflect on our mutual shortcomings and call up again the courage to create an harmonious connection in cohesion between our governments, between our Congress, people, society, economy, culture, and ecology. As I conclude, I'd like to extend on behalf of South Africa Embassy our best wishes for the success of this significant exhibition, not only documenting the past, but to provide insights for the present. The images conveyed and the lessons we learn remain invaluable, and to remind people to resist oppression regardless of its challenges. The struggle against racial discrimination and injustice is ongoing, with the same injustices echoed throughout history and even persisting in modern day. I thank you. Enjoy the evening.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Dr. Bobby Henry, Chair of the National Newspaper Publishers Association. Followed by Dr. Ben Chavis, President and CEO of the National Newspaper Publishers Association.
In the words of Daniel Black, when he gave his commencement exercise at Clark University in Atlanta, here they come, y'all. Here they come. I am the chairman of the NNPA. That's 250 black-owned media companies from across the country, and I'm here representing them. But I couldn't do it without 132 years of the Afro and Dr. Tony Draper. Thank you. Now, where is Paris Brown from the Baltimore Times? Very, very good. I could spend all day talking about how important this collective of individuals and organizations are. We are the voice of America. We are the ones who tell the story. We are black-owned media companies. not black targeted, but black on. There is an interconnectedness in this room from North Carolina, from the name Henry, Mitchell, and the rest of them across the land. The black press is the connecting link of every voice in here. Had it not been for the black press, we would not have any historical accounts taken for us to read. I'm from the state of Florida, where they're trying to take away the history of black people, but we won't allow that. It's so good to stand in the company of freedom fighters. Brother Scott, I'm elated over what you said and what you do. Brother Nfumi, I am touched by that. Dr. Chavis, I'm moved by our relationship. Miss Susan Taylor, I should never forget you in the spirit. So I'm saying all that to say this. We got 197 years behind the black press. We're working on 200 years, and we're going to need all your input. We are celebrating our conference here in the blackest city in the United States of America, and we are proud to be here. We're over at the Four Seasons, where tomorrow is the chairman's reception. I would say you all are invited, but I saw y'all eating them lamb. Y'all might eat. So, but nevertheless, we are honored to be here, and I am honored to stand on the shoulders of those publishers that came before me, the 250 black-owned media companies from across this country. Thank you very much. God bless. And we believe in team. That's spelled with 2 M's. Together, each accomplishes much more. Thank you.
First and foremost, we give thanks to God Almighty. Sister April, Congressman Nfume, Mr. Mayor, all the other elected officials, and Gene and those who work so hard to make this day possible, my fellow publishers. This is another day that the Lord has made. And we're here to acknowledge, to celebrate, to remember, but also to project. My remarks will be very, very short. I want to thank our ambassador from South Africa. During the 1970s, when Nelson Mandela was spending 27 years in prison, I spent most of the 1970s in prison in North Carolina as a member of the Wilmington 10, and Brother Mandela and I were able to communicate even though we were both political prisoners. Why do I bring that up? On my 67th arrest, it was at the South African Embassy. I couldn't wait to be arrested because we should be impatient with injustice. We should be impatient with racism. We should be impatient with the forces, even while we're gathered here, that want to take us back in town. Now, I'm a freelance, so I don't have the restrictions that April has. I'm going to tell you who to vote for. Vote for Joe Biden. Vote for Ulster Brooks. Vote for Mayor Scott. Vote for every black person you can vote for, and every progressive person you can vote for. We ain't got no time to waste. I was so fired up one time, I had a big afro and wearing dashikis. I wanted to move my whole family back to Africa. And then my Angolan brothers and sisters told me, hey, Ben, if you want to help Africa, change America. We got work to do here. We got work to do in Baltimore, work to do in Maryland, work in these United States. Because there are forces, when you hear this talk about make America great again, it's about help America racist again, help America be oppressive again. And we must never find ourselves silent. In the spirit of my African liberation, brothers and sisters, we had a term, a luta continua. The struggle continues. A luta continua.
Ooh, this has become a church service. Feeling like I'm ready to jump over a pew. Woo! But you know what, Dr. Chavis, let me tell you something. We're a city of fighters. What happened last week or 2 weekends ago, Mr. Mayor? Yeah, you know what I'm talking about. For those of you who don't know, there was a man who was a participant of January 6th who lost his seat as a county commissioner in New Mexico because of his participation. He thought we were dumb. Am I right, Mr. Mayor? He was riding his horse all along the city streets of Baltimore. I'm not lying. You saw, that's right. That's right. Give me some receipts, Congressman. Now, this is what the NNPA needs to report. He was riding down the streets of Baltimore, and me and my black-owned press and my good old phone that had a good battery caught him taking pictures with little black children in a harbor. Then, and I'm going to say the name of the event, because it's the name of the event, he decides, somebody gets in his ear and tells him he's met by the head of the Baltimore City Republican Party down at 800 Charles Street. He decides to ride his horse with his big Trump flag. I got receipts, the congressman saw it. Why didn't you let me know you saw it? The mayor did. He rides his horse down to 800 Charles Street. What's at 800 Charles Street? A bunch of the biggest black gathering in the city that day, called the Black Ass Flea Market. I'm not cursing, but that's the name of it. And he chose to go down there. And what did he do, Mr. Mayor? Yeah, he took his horse and he turned around because he knew that wasn't the place. Okay, Mr. Mayor, I did confront him. I'm from Baltimore. I got that Baltimore spirit in me. I'm not going to tell you who to vote for, but you're going to go to vote. And you know what? As we sit here, I did not live to see Dr. King. As a child in Govins in Baltimore, my mother used to have a component set. I was a latchkey kid. She worked at Morgan State with you, sir. And I would go home and I would listen, and you might not even know this. I would listen to the words of Dr. King. It was something about it that reverberated in my spirit. And who knew that this little kid from Baltimore would be questioning 5 American presidents in a city where Donald Trump called rat-infested and all sorts of things. But if I can do it, I know you can. But with that said, I never saw Dr. King, but I did get a chance to meet Madiba, Nelson Mandela. We were in South Africa together during the Clinton years. And to see this man who made this monumental change in a black majority country that whites took over. And that was like in the 90s, that was like late 90s. And in 1994, they had just ended apartheid. And we were there, and the people were still trying to get themselves together, understanding we are free. Freedom comes, but sometimes we don't know we're free. I'm not going to preach. With that, Senator Will Smith, and then my former professor and Congressman Kwesi Mfume.
Hey, good evening, everyone. My name is Will Smith. I'm a senator from Montgomery County, and I was told I have 30 seconds, so I'll be exceedingly brief. Look, I worked on the periphery of this exhibit in South Africa and Washington, D.C., and now here in Baltimore City. And the mayor touched in on this about the importance of understanding our history. We're in the midst of the most important election of our lifetime. I mean, we're still debating whether our country started in 1619, whether it started in 1776, 1789, 1964, or 1965 with the Voting Rights Act, when some could argue was the first real integrated voting in our country's history. This is important to all of us. You know, the synergies and the similarities between our struggle here in the United States and in South Africa cannot be lost amongst the generations. And that's one thing I really took. Look, like the mayor, I'm a relatively new father. I have a 2-year-old and a 6-year-old, and that has really channeled me into understanding my history and my lineage more. And I did some genealogical research and found out that I had a family that came up from Norfolk, moved to Cumberland, Maryland, and registered to vote in the 1930s. Black man registering to vote in the 1930s in Cumberland, Maryland. That was an exercise of courage and understanding your history and being able to shape the moment you're in and the future ahead of you. That's exactly what this exhibit demonstrates when folks from all generations came together to shape their history and their destiny and participating in democracy in that exercise of civil disobedience. And so that's why this exhibit is so important to me and for the next generation. I've learned so much about myself, about our history. The mayor talked about Baltimore City and some of the more restrictive and racist codes that were put in place here. But this was also, and I don't need to tell anyone here, this was also the genesis of Black genius and political activism, not for the state of Maryland, not for the East Coast, but for the entire nation. And that's the legacy that the mayor and folks in this room are carrying forward today. So enjoy the exhibit. I'm glad to be here with you all, and thank you for giving me a couple seconds to chat with you all. Have a good evening. Hey.
Thank you for that standing ovation back there. I appreciate it. Will Smith, don't you get out of here. It's one of the brightest lights in Annapolis. He makes us proud every day. And if Professor Gibson was here, he'd say like I do, thank you for your help with that Thurgood Marshall project. It went so well. Thank you. Well, ladies and gentlemen, you've heard everything you can hear. You just haven't heard it from everybody. So I know you've been standing for a while. Kepper, you doing all right back there? You all right? Okay. Did Susan come with you? Hey, Susan, how you doing? See what happens when you come in late and you're on the front row? You don't know who's behind you. Well, ladies and gentlemen, good evening. If I might, let me just begin by thanking my dear friend, our leader, Mayor Brandon Scott, on 4 more years. And we're going to take your leadership and follow it, and we're going to continue to find ways to make sure that your stewardship of this city is unparalleled. On a personal note, thank you for your othership. That's the friendship that we have. Let me just also, if I might, say a quick word about the NNMPA. Thank you for being here in Baltimore. Mr. Chairman, leave all the money you can behind. Yeah, you do good. I'll be there with you on Friday night. That's right. And to my brother, Ben Chavis, thank you for reminding us of all of those years you spent in jail, like Nelson Mandela, as a political prisoner. It was never lost on us. And whether we read about it in the Afro or in Jet or Ebony, we knew what we wouldn't have known if we just depended on the Washington Post and the New York Times. Say amen, ceiling. Okay. And now, Tony Draper. I know I have to say this because the Afro has been our North Star for so many years. Whether it was chronicling our pilgrimage up from slavery through the early part of the turn of the century, covering the establishment of the NAACP in 1909, reporting on the Red Summer of 1919 when this country had more lynchings, legal lynchings, than ever before, and then through two world wars and through a civil rights movement, and today still providing us with all the information we could possibly need. I thank you, and I thank every one of those members of your family that came before you, who recognized, as Ben said, the good fight, and they got right in it. And I hope we're taking subscriptions to the Afro. If nobody has one, see me. Yeah, no, really, I'll buy a couple of subscriptions because it's that important. It really is. Gene Bailey, thank you. I know it was several years ago. I think I just returned to Congress, and everybody said, what are you doing back here again? That you and Kepper and others met with me to talk about this project, and I'm so glad that you have seen it through. You got the scholarship of Lonnie Guinier and the stick-to-itness of Harriet Tubman. You never let go of that project, and we're all much better for it. And Mike Mitchell, who greeted me in 1979, the year I got elected to the city council, took an office upstairs here next door to Mike's, and we became like that, inseparable, as two members of the city council, along with Victorine Adams from the old 4th District. Thank you, and you know how I feel about your family. Just decades of service to our community with never asking for anything. So it's good to see you, Mike. I mean, they might let us go back up on the 5th floor. What do you think? The offices are still there, but we don't get a free pass anymore. Oh, I hope all of you take into account everything that was said. It's a lot of history here, a lot of history here. I've seen it over and over again, and it's important that we share it with others. Otherwise, it will die right here on this marble floor. And it is important because no one will tell it for us but us, which is why the black press is so very, very important. And it's been a struggle where so many different people of all sorts of races and backgrounds have lent a hand at it. I'm looking over here at Catherine Van Hollen, the wife of Senator Van Hollen, who was responsible for the $1 million grant to get the whole thing kicked off. Thank you for being here, Catherine, from out in Montgomery County. Okay. And my thanks to all of you. Now I gotta say this, April, and then I will sit down. Well, I love April. She was a student of mine many years ago. She wasn't a B student. I do that every time. She was a great student, and I just get so much pride every time I see you in national coverage on the national scene, remembering just from whence you came and your dear mother, who I used to watch pray for you at her lunch by her desk so many, many years ago. And Vivian would just pray and pray and pray for her family and pray for April. So I got a lot to remember, so it just kind of oozes out sometimes. Thanks for doing this for Nelson Mandela. Many, many years ago, as a student, I heard about the struggle in South Africa. And I immediately felt bad and depressed that that was happening in a part of the world to people who looked like me, and it was legal. Apartheid was legal. In those days, if you left here as a black person and went to South Africa, only for a week, you had to go as an honorary white man. Somebody in here remembers that. That was your status on your visa, honorary white man. You couldn't stay much longer than a week. So this struggle evolved over the years, and I remember as a student getting involved with the Boycott South Africa movement. In those days, we made great big posters and put Gulf Oil on the poster because Gulf was doing the most business with South Africa, and we thought if we could get others to boycott, that the economic aspect of it would bring about some sort of change. So when I did get elected here in 1979, for 8 years, every Christmas Eve, out on these steps in this plaza, no matter what the weather was, we gathered hundreds and hundreds of people to force the media to tell the story about South Africa. Year after year, it became a ritual. People just showed up because they wanted to express themselves. Talmadge, you remember that. So, let me move a little faster here. Mr. Mandela found out about that while he was incarcerated. He got an old Jet magazine. Somebody remembers Jet? Come on. It was 2 years old, but that's what they gave the prisoners to read. And he read about those demonstrations and wrote a letter to me, which I still have today, in which he said, "Thank you so much. Keep fighting for all of us. Never give up." And so I never did, and many of us never did. So being arrested over and over was a small thing because it drew attention to this struggle. And the more attention that it got, the more people got involved. So when he did get released from Robben Island after spending 27 years, and he and I met each other in Washington for the first time, it was like I was meeting my father. And he told me to always think of him that way and never call him Mr. Mandela. He said, I am Madiba. That is my family name, and you are part of my family. That's how I want you to address me. So I'm telling you, don't think that Baltimore did not play a role. All those many years of people showing up, forcing the issue, caused other cities to force the issue. We had a divestment bill here in 1983. They were going to run Michael and I off the city council, saying, what are you doing with foreign affairs? That's not your bailiwick, but it was. So as we think about all that's going on with this great exhibit, all of you who've worked so hard to see it through, our mayor who has opened up the City Hall for all of Baltimore to take advantage of it, I just want to say thank you so much, and thank you even more on behalf of Mr. Mandela. I spent many a day in his home in Johannesburg and stood there when he got inaugurated in 1994 and cried because I was so happy, like so many people from around the world on that day. And this is proof, as you said, a luta continua, the struggle does continue. Thank you.
I'm leaving this event with some tears and the words a luta continua. A luta continua. Okay, say it with me. A luta continua. What does it mean? That's right. All right. Well, I hope you enjoyed this event like I did. It was wonderful to be with all of you, and thank you for remembering so much. But at this time, you know, all good things have to come to an end. But after this program, I want you to go to my left, to the north elevator lobby, into the exhibit area, and view the exhibit, please. And also behind me, there's a portion of the exhibit behind the podium. Please spend time understanding the connection, Marylanders' cry for freedom, civil rights at home and abroad. And without further ado, I say goodbye to you, but I bring forth our illustrious City Council President, Nick Mosby. And he saw the horse too.
April actually called me that night. I'm going to be really brief because I know it's really important for us to get to why we're all here, and that's to see the amazing exhibit, Professor Bailey. But I did not want to leave this time with a huge opportunity. And, you know, as we heard from our amazing Congressman Mfume, recall back during a time when folks said, you're the city council, why are you talking about something that's thousands and thousands of miles away? When they told the Mitchells, Michael, Clarence, Perrin, why are we getting involved on a three-tiered level of local, state, and federal for something that's thousands and thousands of miles away? It has no implication to the issues that we have here in the city of Baltimore. It does not affect your family, your community, or your city's life. Why are you putting your nose in someone else's business? Well, the reality is, no matter where injustice takes place, it's injustice for that particular place, but more importantly, it's an injustice for all of us. And whether it was chattel slavery or apartheid in South Africa, we understand and know that those systems were put in place to ensure that they were oppressing folks of color. And those systems were put in place to ensure that they were locking folks of color out of economic progress. And they were put in place to ensure that the shackles that they created will forever stay on those people. And when we look at the statistics today, not just here in the city of Baltimore, not just in South Africa, we understand and know the residual effect of those systems and the evil placement of those people. And it is up to us. This is our opportunity. This is our opportunity to collectively come together and celebrate the courage of the Mitchells, celebrate the courage of Congressman Mfume, celebrate the courage of the folks that stood up and spoke out. But it's also our opportunity to ensure that we are not silent today. Whether it's economic apartheid here in the city of Baltimore or if it's the travesty that's going on right now in the Congo, that is why we are here. That is why we are called together. That is why this day exists. And the last thing I'll wrap it up with is that's why art is so important. See, there's a certain amount of history, Dr. Draper, that we like to forget. You know, we like to forget the struggle, the oppression of our people. We enjoy to take that out of the history books, what we see being done very openly and publicly in the state of Florida right now. We enjoy doing that. That has always been part of progress in any society. Forget about how you've treated a certain class of people. But it's important for us to ensure that something like art, that's a living tool, it's a living symbolic representation of that struggle, continues. And that's why we must continue to support artwork. That's why we must continue to support our artists. That's why we must tell our own stories. So thank you to all the organizers. But again, let's not forget why today is so important. Let's ensure that in 50 years, folks get to talk about the individuals in this room and how we went after economic apartheid in urban communities, how we ensured that we spoke up about what's the injustices that are taking place in the Congo today. Love you, Baltimore.